Hello, my name is Gerardo, a member of the Spacecreator team, the builder of professional virtual spaces that includes a tool that will allow you to analyze the interaction of your users. Before we begin, I would like to thank you for requesting access to this demo video. For any additional help you may need, you can consult our website or the public documentation of Spacecreator, which we will leave in the description. To start using Spacecreator, you have to access our official website at spacecreator.io. Once inside, you have to click on the Try Free button located at the top right of the screen. When we click on the Try Free button, we will be prompted with a registration or login screen, where we will have to register for the first time by clicking on Create an account if we don't have an account yet. Here, we will have to enter our username, email, and password. Once we have entered our access credentials and accepted the terms and conditions, we would click on the Sign Up button. As we can see, once registered, we will not have any type of space created yet. When we register for the first time, we are given a free trial period of the professional plan where we have access to all the tools that Spacecreator offers for 14 days. Creating your first space is as easy as clicking on the Add Space button and a side tab will appear where we have to decide on the name of our space. For example, in my case, I want to create a space called Gerardo's Space. In this second section, we have to choose the URL of our world. Remember that this URL will be used to give access to your team and community. In this case, I will put Demo Gerardo. You have to bear in mind that, as mentioned in this section, this URL cannot be changed or edited. Therefore, you have to think carefully about which URL you want to use. Lastly, we have to decide whether we want it to be a public or private space. The difference is that when it is a public space, anyone with the URL can access it, and if it is a private space, access will only be allowed through an invitation list or password. In my case, I will make it a public space. Once the space configuration is decided, we click on the Submit button and a summary of the space we just created will appear. It includes the name, our role in it, the type of plan or subscription active, and the status of the space. In this case, it is in draft status. If we click on the name of the space, we can see when my trial period ends, the number of seats, spaces, or people that can be on the platform simultaneously, and we have direct access to our URL. If we click on our URL, a completely new tab will open and the process of creating the virtual space will begin. The first thing we will encounter is the avatar customizer where we can have different hairstyles, skin color, eyebrows, eyelashes, nose sizes, beards, etc. For example, I'm going to add this little beard to my avatar to make it a bit different from the original state. And we can also choose different types of clothing from tops, shirts, jackets, pants. We can also have access to a series of footwear where retail companies can even design their own 3D clothes to be able to incorporate them into the avatar customizer. Finally, we also have everything related to accessories such as glasses, hats, makeup, or even piercings. In addition to this avatar customizer, we have something called virtual profile where people can fill in these different fields and it works as a business card. That is, when we are in the virtual space, if another person clicks on our avatar, a card with all the information that we have decided to share will be displayed. For example, if I am in San Sebastian and work at Spacecreator, and my email is this, when people click on my avatar, the information that I have decided to share with them will be the one they will have access to. I myself decide what type of information I want to share. In addition to this, we have a series of instructions that we can also see in the initiation tutorial, and then receive more information about Spacecreator. If we have already finished customizing our avatar, just by clicking on the check located at the bottom right of the screen, it would be enough. Now, what the platform asks me to do the first time we start is to start the tutorial. We can move with the WASD keys or with the arrow keys on our keyboard. We can also press C to crouch or press the space bar on our keyboard to jump. If we hold down the right mouse button and move our mouse, we can rotate the camera. In addition to this, we can zoom the camera by scrolling with the scroll wheel on our mouse. Now what the tutorial itself asks me to do is to advance to the illuminated area. Remember that with the space bar I can jump. Now it asks me to interact with the elements. On this screen, I can stand in front of the content, click on it and put it in full screen. If I click outside the screen, I'll go back to see the original state of the space. Now it asks me to interact with another avatar. Here is where we can see the functionality of the virtual profile that I mentioned before. If we click on San, I can have different options. I can have chat, video calls, even view his information. To start, it asks me to start a new chat. Now that I have started the chat, we finish the tutorial and I can cross the portal to finish it. At this point, I can continue with the tutorial or press the 9 key if I want to advance quickly and start using the creation tools. In my case, I'm going to press the 9 key so I can give you my own demonstration. However, the first time you log in, I would recommend following the steps of the tutorial itself so that everything is clearer, and you can review all the features. Now we are inside our virtual space. But obviously, this is a completely empty space. To begin with, we have the Creator Mode tool, which when expanded, we have the word editor, which is the space customizer. This is where, through a system of templates that we have on the right side and with such a simple drag and drop system, we can customize and start building our space. In this case, for example, I want to use another hub, another central plaza. To show you the change, it's as simple as selecting it and seeing how the changes are made in real time. In this case, I want to drag this one here and finally this one here, so that you can see how it works in real time. As you can see, there is no need to save any changes as all the changes we make in the space are refreshed in real time. We click on Exit World Editor, and we will have access to a completely customized space. To continue building our world, we click on the World Editor button again and move to the tab for Interior Rooms. These interior rooms are where all the actions take place or have a series of functionalities. We can have anything from auditoriums, gamified activities, exhibition rooms, and so on. In this case, for example, I'm going to use the circular audience and place it here because maybe the event or the objective that I want my virtual space to fulfill requires an auditorium. In addition to this, I'm going to use the gamified activity of quiz, which is like a Kahoot. Furthermore, I want to use an Expo Center. And finally, I want to place this template here. To understand a little bit about the logic of creating or operating a virtual space, I like to use the comparison to traditional web pages. The hubs, for me, have the functionality of a home page, a starting page of a traditional web page. Exterior rooms function as page categories, and interior rooms function as the actual contents found within these categories. If I wanted to make any changes, for example, I want to remove the room below and use another gamified activity, I can either click on the template and delete it. Other way, we can simply select the interior room I want to use and drag it to the place where I want it to be. And as you can see, the change occurs in real time. If I exit from the world editor, we can see that the changes are not visible. But if I proceed to access one of the rooms, for example, in this case, I'm going to access the auditorium room, I can see that it has already been refreshed in real time. While we're here, I want to show you what these green squares, these green rectangles that we call Pro Elements. Basically, this is the tool with which we are going to manage our contents, which is our own CMS integrated within the platform. To edit it, it's as simple as clicking on it, and we can even choose between different content options such as images, videos, text, streaming, a conference, or even screen sharing. To start editing our world and customizing it through the contents. For example, in this case, I have selected that I want this pro element to be an image. It's as simple as selecting the option to upload an image and going to the images that we have saved on our computer, uploading it and seeing how the world can be updated in real time. If we apply the changes and exit the Creator tools, we see how the content configurations we have made are maintained. If we want to continue editing the Pro element, we would activate the Creator mode. Click again on that Pro element and we can make a series of appearance changes. For example, if we want our Pro element to be clean, without any kind of frame, we can select the first option. If we want it to have a background, we can even place the frame we had at the beginning. We can change its appearance from a landscape style, a square style, or a vertical style. In this case, we are going to use the landscape style as the image fits better in this type of frame. So, if we want to have some kind of vertical content, we could have it. In addition to this, we can scale the size of the Pro element. We can make it bigger, smaller. My recommendation is to keep it around scale 1 as it is large enough, and the Pro elements are designed to fit well with the environment with their default appearance configuration. In addition to this, we can go to the third tab, which is the Configuration tab, where we can place a button, an interaction button. We have different button options, as you can see, and we can even have a URL placed on this button. In this case, we will use the commands we have here to position our button correctly. In this section at the top, we can write the URL to which we want to redirect users, whether it be a web page, a form, a sales page, or a calendar to choose a date and time for an appointment, and we can even delimit an interaction area. This interaction area can be visualized when configuring it through these blue lines that will basically allow us to start playing or interacting with the contents that are within this pro element once inside. An example would be if I placed a video in this pro element, and I delimited an area in which to interact, an area in which the video starts playing automatically, it would be once inside these lines. This would be great for us to measure the degree of interaction or the number of people who are really interacting with the content of our room. We can apply the changes, and automatically, we would have the contents within our space. We can perform the same action with the different pro elements that we can find both in the different interior rooms and in the exterior rooms of the space. Once we have seen how we can use the pro elements to personalize our virtual environment, I will proceed to talk a little about the communication and interaction tools between avatars. First of all, at the bottom of the screen we have the chat where we can use a general chat, a public chat in which we can use emojis and where anyone in the space can interact with all users at once from this chat. We even have a private chat tab where we can talk to people individually or even have a list of users that we have added as friends or contacts. By this way you can see if they are online at any time and interact with them. In addition to this, I'm going to take advantage to show you a secret function that Spacecreator has, the teleport. With the teleport, for example, if I'm in the hub of the world and I want to move to this exhibition room, it's as simple as selecting it and teleporting there. This way I can optimize travel times. Once inside, I also wanted to show you what voice areas and video calls are. For example, when we are in this room, we can define or even configure it so that this room is a voice area, meaning that all people who enter this space automatically enter a call or video call. To do this, we have to go to the World Editor, select the room where we want to activate these functions, and the voice area option will appear automatically. To activate it, we just have to click on the button and it will apply the changes in real time. If we exit the World Editor, as you can see, a message appears warning us that we are in a voice area. By the way, a new panel will appear in the bottom of your screen with some new configuration: mute, deafen, and video, and voice settings. In addition to this, what we can do is activate a video call area. To do this, just like before, we would only have to select the tab and the video call area would automatically take effect. In this case, since I'm alone in this room, it doesn't make sense to activate the camera, and it doesn't activate when there's only one person to optimize the platform's own resources. Next, we're going to go back to our small auditorium room to show you, in addition to this, what the analytics section is all about. The analytics section is very important, especially for measuring the degree of interaction that users have within our space. To do this, we just have to go back to our pro element and click on it, and the same panel that we saw before will open automatically. As you can see, there's a small tab called Name for Analytics, where we can give a name to this specific pro element. In this case, for example, if I want to identify this content with an image that says Custom Virtual Event Button Web, we will use a nomenclature that each person finds convenient and recognizable. In my case, for example, I want to use this nomenclature to know that this is an image. The image is called Custom Virtual Event, and it has a button that redirects to the website. As I mentioned earlier, this is completely personal, and each company has its own nomenclature to identify pro elements. Additionally, besides being able to identify and track the activity and the content of pro elements, we can track the activity of any room, whether it's indoor or outdoor. For example, in this Expo Center room, we can also identify this space with the type of content that we are going to place. I can have the same Expo Center room repeated in different parts of the space. If I want to have two Expo Centers at the same time, I can drag and drop it. But if I want to know what type of content is in each one, I can identify them using different nomenclature. How and where do we show all this data? Well, when we created our first space and we clicked on it, we can access to our space information. Here there's a tab called Statistics. This tab will give you access to a panel with all the analytics of your virtual space. In this case, let's say we can collect 4 types of data categories: general registration data, connection data, interaction data, and lastly, gamified activity interactions such as soccer and quiz. In the first category, the general one, I cannot display this type of information because it is sensitive information of users registered in Spacecreator. However, every company has access to a data panel that then has its own private information to which only they have access. Secondly, what we measure is activity at the connection level. Here is where, for example, we can measure the total connections per user, the average time a connection per user, the total unique connections a space has, the unique connections that the same space has on different days, the total connections of unique users that this space has had, the average time that connected users spend in a specific space, distributed by days. All this data distributed in different graphs that we can export and integrated with other tools such as CRM or ERP. In addition to this, as I mentioned earlier, we also have information on interaction with modules and content. This is where the most important part of the nomenclature I mentioned earlier comes from, as the name we use for both Pro Elements content and identifying complete rooms. Here is the place where the type of nomenclature you wrote will appear, is in this data panel where we can see the total number of interactions that have occurred in a module, or even the average time people spend in each module, or even the type of data that is collected from each element. As I mentioned before, there are different types of content such as images, videos, or text. Here we can see the retention time that each content has had, each one identified by its respective name to know which types of content work better, or even know which content has a higher degree of interaction from users. Finally, we have gamified activities where we can have all the information collected by Spacecreator. For example, in the soccer gamified activity, we can see how many games have been played in total, how many shots have been taken. We can see the total interactions that users have had within the platform, games played, the average time players spend playing, and all this information can then be translated with different objectives. For example, we can determine the type of behavior a person has by watching them play during a soccer game. We can know if they have a more competitive profile, are more communicative, work better in a team, or if they're more individualistic. All this is possible because gamified activities are also accompanied by all communication tools such as chat, video calls, and voice calls. Finally, we have the quiz, which as I mentioned earlier is like a Kahoot for those who know it. Here, we can also see the total games played, completed games, games abandoned, the total time users end up playing within the platform, as well as the ratios of correct answers to questions. All this can be filtered by types of games or users who have started specific games to extract specific data from this activity. Once we have seen the whole analytics panel, it is worth remembering that all this data is completely exportable, and we can integrate it with other tools we are using. It would be as simple as exporting this data in a PDF, and that's it. And it can also be exported in a CSV. Going back to the platform, we close the World Editor and turn off Creator mode. So, this is a brief summary of everything we can achieve with Spacecreator, and we would like to remind you to register for free. It's as simple as visit our website, clicking on the try button, and enjoying 14 days of the professional version completely free. It includes all the analytical features and gamified activities, as well as all the customization tools and templates we have seen in this demo. For any information, we have included all the documentation and manuals in the description of this video, so that you can start using Spacecreator in the full version. Any additional information can also be found on our website. Thank you very much for your time. Best regards.